special occasion.
For who they call their son now.
Destiny impatient.
For Team Dignitas! Sneaky volley! They get some back for it! Quadra kill for Medios!
Finals begins today as we kick off the 2017 Spring Playoffs. Here we've got plenty of energy in the crowd today, kicking off the playoffs right as all of these teams are fighting for their road to the finals. Here we got Phoenix1 making their way into the studio just moments ago. They're, of course, the 3 seed going up against the 6 seed in Dignitas, who are on quite a run there at the end of the split. We'll see if they can upset Phoenix1 here in our first match of the playoffs. Some cosplayers in the crowd love to see that kind of fandom and energy. But ladies and gentlemen, welcome to North American LCS. I'm James Dash Patterson, along with Sam, Kobe Hartman, Kenzler, and William Scar Lee. How you guys doing today?
I'm doing great, man.
Yeah, you guys excited for playoffs?
I am. I'm glad that we also got our own mics as well. We can control our own destiny.
Yeah, it means I can't mute you. I can't kick you off or shut you up. How about that 5-game series, though, over in EU LCS?
I actually watched it because Power Evil actually is a monster. He hard carried that last game.
Absolutely a monster. Hoping to get some competitive series here as well.
I was going to say, do you love that new LeBlanc after everyone thought she was dead from the nerfs and comes back with the gunblade?
I actually thought she was dead, but then apparently they found a way to resurrect her. She doesn't even need damage to her W now.
Oh, just I want to see that champion gone forever. All right, we got to get some business out of the way. No, shush. Before we get to our series today, first up, ballots are in for the all-NALCS team. First team is in the top lane. We've got Hanser, followed by Lyra in the jungle. Bjergsen in that mid lane, no stranger to that position. Arrow picking up the ADC, and Smoothie on support. So, gentlemen, thoughts on these 5 players here across the board?
Smart people picked those ones. Those are actually all the ones I went for.
Me too, man. Me too.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, congratulations. Let's talk about Lyra. That's the person I want to talk about the most because first in his position, 10th team in the league. That is a very rare thing to see.
Honestly, this guy deserves it. He is a monster player. A lot of the games, Envy takes every team to 3 games. And a lot of it is because Lyra sets him up with the best early game in the league, almost.
Definitely, and you can just look at some of the individual plays that he has pulled off throughout the season. The mechanics on that guy, extremely impressive, so definitely deserves it.
What about Smoothie? When we look at supports and when we look at, the fact that last year he was sharing time on the Rift with Bunny Fufu, this time around comes in, owns that role, and really helps drive C9 to some sweet victories.
This guy has just bloomed into the best all-around support. I think this one was really close to being unanimous. Smoothie has done so many different things so well this season. I mean, laning phase, roaming, he does whatever the team needs for him, and he's had a really high impact as far as support players go.
Yeah, and I love his champion versatility. He's one of the first people to pick Taric and the Malzahar as a counter pick. He's someone who you never think is a weak link in the team, and on top of that, he shot calls, and that's such a valuable trait to have in the support.
Stepping up in the shot calling role as Meteos leaves the team and a rookie jungler comes in. So big props to Smoothie for his performances this year. Time now, though, to take a look at the roadmap to the championship here in North American LCS. The number 6 seed Team Dignitas will be playing against the number 3 seed Phoenix1 today. Of course, tomorrow we have CLG versus FlyQuest. Now, due to dynamic seeding in the semifinals, TSM will play versus the lower seed that qualifies into the semifinals, while C9 plays against the higher seed, but that's still to come. Of course, in the North American LCS Spring Split, you're fighting for not only the title of champions, but also championship points. They are crucial to your qualification to Worlds come September time. So here we go. First place, 90 points, all the way down to 0, of course, for 7th through 10th. But every single position that you can snag, every round further you go, that much more important towards getting yourself to Worlds later in the year.
Yeah, and we've seen those be important in years past, High, Cloud9 specifically, running that gauntlet. And we'll see if you can rack them up in spring. This can come in handy come around summer.
Yeah, but the players aren't going in the games being like, oh my God.
My championship points.
If I win this game, I get 20 more championship points. It's like, I just want to smash the other team. Like, I'm sure both these teams behind me right now are just thinking about how did they get the win.
Right, you want the W, the championship points are the byproduct, the lovely byproduct. All right, well, today's series, Phoenix1 Dignitas, let's zero in on it because I would say that the 3-6 matchup, this is not necessarily as disparate as you might expect in terms of seed to seed.
Yeah, a lot of people, because of the way that the season ended, where Phoenix1, they went against Cloud9 and TSM at the end, so they looked a little bit weaker. You know, they were struggling a little bit. The support players subbing in and out also threw a lot of, you know, took away from a lot of people's confidence in the team. I still think they do look pretty strong, and Team Dignitas as well, you know, on the rise at the end of their
Well,
split.
and I think that's the big thing there. Dignitas, the 6th seed. We've got some words from Laud that we're going to share with you in just a moment, talking about how he himself not afraid of the 3 seed, not necessarily looking at this as an underdog matchup. Take a look.
I don't really have that much to say about P1. They're not even really a blip on my radar. I'm just trying to get through them, make it to Vancouver real quick. And I think they'll be pretty easy to beat, actually. I think we're going to slay them. I'm confident going into that series. I actually wanted to play against P1. I mean, it wouldn't have been bad to play against FlyQuest or CLG, but I think it would feel better to take out like the top seed that doesn't have a bye, like right off the bat.
I mean, that's some strong language coming out of Laud there going into a 5-game series, especially when you consider the fact that he's going up against Arrow, first all-team NALCS in the ADC position here in the bot lane. Of course, Arrow did have kind of a lackluster Week 9 and might be looking to have a bit of a resurgence here at the beginning of the playoffs.
I mean, the number one thing you have to have when you're playing is confidence. And I'm glad to see that he's very confident about the match. And I think he should be. You know, they used to be tied for 10th place in the league. Where are they now? They snuck in at 6th from like a crazy swing on the back half of the season.
Yeah, plus, I mean, we talked about it a little bit already, but the recent play from these guys, a lot of the members have stepped up. I mean, Chaser was blasting contracts in their Cloud9 games. Keen is playing a lot better as well. Some of the people that you didn't necessarily first look to on Team Dignitas, like Someday, for carry performances, are playing a lot better for the team. Plus, I always like the NA trend of more trash talking that people have been doing. Started in a jungle, it's bleeding over to other roles.
I love it. I like fire everywhere, just people spitting fire. But let's talk about Arrow specifically, because do you guys believe that he will return to form, or rather their entire bot lane will return to form, because we know that they do have both supports that they've been kind of trying out here in the later weeks of the season?
Yeah, I actually got to talk a little bit to history teacher, I think his analyst or GM or something. He's not exactly coach, because Fly is coach of the team, but he talked a little bit about what they were going through with all the substitutions, jungle role as well as support role. He didn't want to give away very much information, though. He said, you know, both supports synergize with Arrow in different ways. Also, who's starting today is due to the champions that they were running in the couple of weeks leading up to this. So I'm very curious, because Shady was the one with Brand and Vel'Koz are 2 of his most played supports. So hopefully we get to see some crazy picks.
I mean, the way that I see it is that P1's bot lane has never been great in lane. Like, they're like a passable bot lane that like does well. And then where Arrow really shines is like out of lane phase, this guy's a monster. He's like the best team fighter in the league. He gets so much impact regardless how much gold he gets. And he played against C9 last week. They have probably the best bot lane duo in the league, and they got abused. This new meta where laning is more important is something that could be a little bit of a hole for P1 in general. If they can exploit it, though, I don't know.
Yeah, and actually on the laning point, Arrow, although he's kind of middle of the table as far as the laning stats, like the CS per minute and CSD at 15, those get better for him versus Laud compared to his averages against the entire league. So maybe in that specific matchup, they might actually even do better.
Another specific matchup that I want to take a look at is the top lane. Again, we've got Someday along with Looper, for example, these Korean imports that came in with great expectations as to how they would raise the bar and the competition in the top lane. Of course, Zig's on the other side of that matchup, homegrown NA talent, but he really has stepped up. How do you guys look at this matchup between Zig and Someday?
I really like watching Zig play, and I'm glad that we're starting that out with his Kled play, because he was, you know, the first guy to really bring the Kled into the professional scene here in North America. He's provided whatever the team needs at the time. He plays tanks, he plays initiators, he plays carry top laners, and he's done a lot of, you know, team-oriented play.
Yeah, I feel like although his stats look a little bit bad, he takes a lot of stuff for the team. Like, he takes a lot of ganks. He tends to give up a lot of his lane to make sure his team gets ahead. He is probably one of the best role-specific players in the LCS, and he's up against Someday, which is like a huge carry threat, but like his team also needs him to be. Whereas I feel like Zig does his role just as well, but in like a different way.
Exactly, and he doesn't really require as much jungle attention as Someday does. Like, Someday and Chaser are very close, and Chaser spends a lot of time up there to help out with those lane stats you can see.
All right, so given what you guys just pointed out, within this particular lane matchup, the 1v1, who do you give the edge to, Zig or Someday?
As much as I do love Zig, you know, and team players, if we're just looking at the 1v1 matchup here, I gotta give it to Someday. He has just pulled out some plays that I couldn't see, you know, Zig being able to pull off, even though Someday has also had, you know, some Kled ultimates into the enemy team a little bit too deep and a couple of misplays. Overall, I think definitely give the edge to Someday.
I think Someday is like a better skilled player overall, but a lot of, I think, Zig's ability to adapt, and like he has very specific pocket counter picks, like his GP into tanks. He has his Kled into tanks as well. He's just a player which I don't know will be fully unlocked depending on what jungler they use. So like, while I like to focus on the 1v1 as well, and I'm here to say that I think Someday is a better player, I think how good Zig will be will also rely a lot about which jungler they use, because Meteos can play frontline a lot more than Inori, and so if he does get to play frontline, you get to see all these top lane counter picks from Zig that are a lot better.
All right, well, an edge to Someday in lane, but as you mentioned, it's a team game. So now let's expand it. Who's coming away with the series? Prediction here.
I think it's P1. And the biggest problem I had for P1 was that their bot lane laning phase, it doesn't look great. And I'll give it to them. I think they're like middle of the pack or maybe even worse. But I also think that Dig's bot lane hasn't been impressive. Even in their wins, throughout the season, they've been like, what, a bottom 3 bot lane? And I'm waiting to be proved wrong. And so if they can exploit this, what I consider to be like fairly big weakness in P1, they have to do it this series. And if they don't, then it's entirely relied on if Chaser can perform super well.
All right, so Phoenix1 here. Kobe, what are you going?
Yeah, I'm also going to go with Phoenix1. My reasoning was more about late game decision making. I'm very sketchy as far as Team Dignitas. You're always a little bit worried in the best of 5 scenarios. You know, how many times is the Baron thing that comes up, you know, which people want to skirt around the issue, but like how many times in a best of 5 does the pressure build up with all these late game decisions that they do have to make? And Phoenix1, throughout the regular split, that was actually one of their strengths that we were looking to. Maybe that gets shifted around since Adrian left and they've got these rookies though. So that's why I think it is going to be pretty close here. And Team Dignitas definitely do have a good chance.
Final thoughts.
I'm just saying the Dig Baron was like, when I still played, this is
happened.
roster number 6 for them. I don't think the curse follows, you know? I think it's okay, you know? I mean, I hope the series
You don't think
will be
the
close.
curse follows, but you still voted for Phoenix1.
Oh,
so.
right, but I think it's not based on the fact that they throw a Baron.
I got you. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, we want to know from you at home, who do you think will be in the finals of the Spring Split and why? So not winning this series here today. We want your projection all the way to the finals. Make sure to tweet at LOL Esports and use the hashtag NALCS. For now, though, that's enough out of us. Time to get into game, so let's toss it over to the casters for this first series.